Every dollar in America eventually wants to walk into a casino. That's not an exaggeration, it's a design principle. Somewhere, right now, a chandelier is dimming on cue, a carpet pattern is disorienting a grown adult on purpose, and a machine is calculating the precise moment to let someone win $9 so they'll lose 90. You think you're buying a building full of tables and lights. You're actually buying a mathematics degree you didn't know you needed. Here's the paradox. A casino floor can gross $1 million on a Saturday night and still file for bankruptcy 3 years later. Same building, same slot machines, same absurd margins. Gone. How does a business engineered to always win end up losing? Look closer. The casino industry likes to sell itself as glamour. Velvet ropes, high rollers, a tuxedo dealer sliding chips across green felt like it's 1962 and Sinatra is somewhere in the building. That image sells tourism boards and Instagram accounts. It has almost nothing to do with how the money actually moves. What actually moves the money is closer to actuarial science than showmanship. Every light, every free drink, every square foot of carpet is a variable in an equation designed to extract a small, statistically guaranteed toll from an enormous, repeating volume of transactions. It's less like a casino and more like a toll authority that happens to serve champagne. And yet, for every Wynn or Adelson who died a billionaire, there's a Revel or a Trump Taj Mahal that collapsed under its own weight, gaming license and all. The math works. The math has always worked. The math is not the problem. The capital structure is the problem, and nobody explains that part on the tour. Let's talk about buying in, because the price of admission to this industry scales more violently than almost any other business on earth.
Tier 1 is bootstrapped. This is a tribal-adjacent card room, a small-market riverboat license, or a limited-stakes casino in a state that only recently legalized gaming. Entry cost runs $2 to $5 million. And here's the catch. Most of that capital doesn't buy tables or chips. It buys regulatory survival, licensing fees, background investigations that dig into your personal finances going back a decade, a state gaming commission that treats every applicant like a suspected money launderer until the paperwork says otherwise, because historically, more often than the industry likes to admit, that suspicion was earned. At this tier, you're running maybe 40 tables and a modest slot floor. No hotel tower, no headline entertainment. Your clientele is mostly local regulars, retirees on a fixed schedule, blue-collar workers on payday. Margins are thin because volume is thin. You're not competing on luxury, you're competing on proximity. You're the closest legal place to lose $20 on a Tuesday, and that's the entire business model. Tier 2 is regional, and this is where the numbers start getting genuinely uncomfortable. A mid-market property in Atlantic City, Biloxi, Tunica, or a Rust Belt riverboat town runs $25 to $80 million, financed through a debt stack that would make a conventional lender walk out of the room. You get a modest hotel tower, maybe 200 rooms, a buffet that's designed to lose money as a customer acquisition cost, and enough slot volume that the state's tax office actually notices your existence in its quarterly reports. At this tier, you're also fighting geography. Regional casinos live and die by drive time radius. How many people can reach you within 90 minutes without crossing into a competing state's jurisdiction? The moment a neighboring state legalizes gaming and builds its own property, your customer base doesn't shrink gradually, it falls off a cliff. Because gamblers, unlike loyal retail shoppers, have almost zero brand loyalty. They go wherever the nearest machine is.
Tier 3 is institutional, and this is where the fantasy and the balance sheet diverge completely. A strip-caliber integrated resort runs $1 to $3 billion, syndicated across commercial banks, private equity funds, and occasionally a sovereign wealth fund quietly attaching its capital to a tower it would rather not have its name directly associated with in a press release. At this scale, the casino floor is almost incidental. It's the smallest square footage in the building relative to hotel rooms, convention space, retail, and entertainment venues. The gaming floor exists to subsidize everything stacked on top of it, and that inversion, gaming as a supporting actor rather than the headline, is the single hardest thing for outside investors to understand before they write the check. So how does the toll actually get collected? Think of a casino less like a business and more like a bridge that charges admission every time you cross it, except the bridge also serves cocktails and occasionally lets you win back a small percentage just to keep you walking. Every single game on that floor carries a built-in mathematical toll. The industry has a precise term for it, the hold percentage. This is the share of every dollar wagered that the house statistically retains over a long enough timeline. Blackjack, played with basic strategy, might run a hold in the low single digits, sometimes under 1% for skilled players. Craps, depending on the bet, can run similarly tight. But slot machines, the actual workhorses of the entire industry, run holds of 8 to 12%, and on some older or lower limit machines considerably higher. Multiply that toll by volume and you arrive at the second essential insider term, handle. Handle is not revenue. Handle is the total dollar amount wagered, cycling through machines and tables again and again, sometimes the exact same $20 crossing the felt or cycling through a slot reel 100 times over the course of an evening. A casino floor can post $10 million in handle on a single busy weekend and only retain $600,000 of actual house revenue from it. The other $9,400,000 is just money taking an extremely expensive, extremely well-lit walk in a circle before eventually, mostly, ending up in the house's pocket anyway.
Here's the fact that violates ordinary business logic, and it's the fact that separates gaming from almost every other industry on Earth. The house does not need any individual customer to lose. It needs the aggregate, thousands of trials across thousands of customers to lose reliably. The same way a life insurance company doesn't need to know when any one policyholder will die, only that its actuarial tables hold up across the entire portfolio. Any sailed high roller can walk out of a casino up 7 figures on a hot night, and the property barely flinches, because variance at the individual level is fully priced into the model. What can't be priced in, and what quietly kills properties, is aggregate softness. A slow February with the lights fully on, the payroll fully staffed, and the machine simply not being played at the volume the capital structure requires to service its debt. There's a third insider concept worth understanding here: theoretical win, sometimes just called theo. This is the amount the house statistically expects to win off a given player based on their average bet size, speed of play, and time at the table, calculated in real time by the casino's player tracking systems. Theo is why a casino will comp a high roller a free suite worth thousands of dollars without blinking, because the theoretical win calculated off that player's expected play far exceeds the cost of the room. Comps aren't generosity. They're a discount rate applied against a predicted future payment. Now walk the floor itself, because nothing in that building exists by accident. Every design decision downstream of the felt is a psychological instrument. There are no clocks visible anywhere on a casino floor. There are, in most properties, no windows either, and where there are windows, they're positioned to obscure the transition from day to night. The layout itself functions as a maze by design. It is measurably easier to walk deeper into a casino than to find your way back out to an exit, a pattern architects call the Gruen transfer when applied to shopping malls, and simply inherited wholesale by casino design. Slot machines sit at floor level, accessible and unintimidating, while high-limit rooms are frequently elevated on a slight platform or tucked behind a velvet rope, visually signaling status the same way a church elevates its altar above the congregation. The carpet pattern, famously chaotic, often criticized as ugly by design critics who've never once considered it might be intentional, is busy specifically so your eyes never fully rest, keeping you marginally more alert, marginally more stimulated, marginally more willing to keep engaging with the machine directly in front of you rather than looking around and reconsidering your situation. The air in some properties is subtly enriched with oxygen, a detail Vegas has denied and industry insiders have quietly confirmed for decades. The lighting sits at a warm, low color temperature specifically engineered to erase your internal sense of elapsed time. That's why you can walk onto a casino floor at 9 p.m. and walk off at 3 a.m. feeling like an hour has passed. Free drinks are never simple hospitality. They function as a controlled legal depressant, subtly lowering risk aversion just enough to widen the size and frequency of your bets without visibly impairing your motor function or your ability to keep signing markers. But here's the hidden liability nobody puts on the glossy investor tour, and it's the one that eventually sinks properties that look flawless on paper. That entire non-gaming footprint, the towers, the pools, the celebrity chef restaurants, the nightclub with the 7-figure sound system, exists as a loss leader cost center subsidized almost entirely by gaming revenue. Hotel rooms are routinely sold near cost or comped outright to theoretical win players. Restaurants, with rare exceptions, run at a structural loss once you account for celebrity licensing fees and build-out costs. The entire non-gaming footprint functions as a customer acquisition machine, not a profit center, and if gaming revenue ever softens for a sustained period, there is no other business line inside the building strong enough to carry that structural weight on its own. You are never simply running a resort. You are running a casino wearing a resort as a disguise, and that disguise carries fixed costs whether or not a single person is gambling on any given Tuesday afternoon. Which brings us to why casinos, despite house edges that no other legal industry would ever be allowed to advertise, keep going spectacularly broke. Case 1 is capital structure and over-leverage, and there's no cleaner example than Revel Casino Hotel in Atlantic City. Revel opened in 2012 at a cost north of $2.5 billion, financed on a capital structure so aggressively leveraged it barely survived a series of pre-opening construction delays and cost overruns. The building itself was genuinely striking, 47 stories of curved glass, an architectural statement piece for a boardwalk that badly needed one. The balance sheet underneath it was closer to fiction. Debt service alone required a level of sustained gaming volume that the Atlantic City market simply did not have room to provide, especially as Pennsylvania, New York, and Maryland were simultaneously legalizing and expanding their own gaming markets, actively cannibalizing the exact regional customer base Revel needed to survive. Revel filed for bankruptcy in 2013, emerged briefly, filed again in 2014, and shuttered permanently later that same year, less than 2 years after opening, undone before a single full mortgage amortization cycle had time to stabilize.
Case 2 is market mismatch and operational friction, and Fontainebleau, Las Vegas tells that story almost perfectly. Ground broke in 2007 with ambitions of becoming a new Strip icon, a 68-story tower positioned to compete directly with the Wynn and the Cosmopolitan. Then the 2008 credit freeze hit mid-construction, and lenders, spooked by a collapsing credit market and a project still years from generating revenue, pulled financing entirely. The tower sat as an empty, unfinished concrete husk for over a decade, a genuinely billion-dollar skeleton visible from the highway, a monument to catastrophic market timing rather than any flaw in the underlying business model. It eventually reopened under entirely different ownership in 2023 as simply Fontainebleau, but the original ownership group and its lenders lost essentially everything they'd put into it. Clear proof that even a flawless location, a name-brand design team, and a mathematically sound gaming model cannot survive opening your doors, or in this case, failing to open your doors, at exactly the wrong moment in the credit cycle. Both properties had full access to the same house edge every casino in the world enjoys. Neither one survived long enough to let that edge, applied across enough volume over enough time, actually do its job. The entire business, when you strip away the chandeliers and the comped filet mignon, reduces to one clean equation: handle multiplied by hold minus fixed non-gaming overhead minus debt service equals whether you end your career as a tycoon or as a cautionary tale told in bankruptcy court filings. Net margins on the gaming floor itself typically land between 5 and 15% once you fully account for comps, marketing spend, and regulatory compliance costs. Genuinely healthy for a mature industry, but nowhere near the fantasy the neon signage and the marketing budget would have you believe.
Sheldon Adelson understood the structural reality better than almost anyone alive. He didn't build Las Vegas Sands around the casino floor as the primary asset. He built the entire company around convention business in Las Vegas and mass-market gaming volume in Macau, deliberately treating the gaming floor as one revenue stream among several, rather than the whole structure the company rested on. That diversification, refusing to let the casino be the only load-bearing wall in the building, is arguably the single decision that separated his empire from the ones that collapsed under identical house edges. The house always wins. Just make sure you're the house, and not the guy who financed the building the house happens to sit inside of.